Who is Samara Weaving playing in X-Men? Emma Frost explained. Warning, spoiler warning. This video discusses Marvel's newly confirmed X-Men cast and Emma Frost's comic book history, including her powers, the Hellfire Club, her connection to the X-Men, and her relationship with Cyclops. Marvel has officially revealed another major piece of its new X-Men movie. Samara Weaving is playing Emma Frost. The announcement came as Marvel unveiled the main cast of its upcoming X-Men movie, which is scheduled to arrive in theaters on May 5, 2028. Weaving joins a completely new generation of X-Men characters. Kit Connor is Cyclops. Sadie Sink is Jean Grey. Christopher Abbott is Professor X. Maya Boyd is Storm. Inda Navarrete is Rogue. And Adam Driver is Mr. Sinister. That lineup immediately raises some interesting questions, because Emma Frost isn't simply another mutant. She's one of the most complicated characters in X-Men history. She has been a villain, she's been a member of the Hellfire Club, she's been an enemy of the X-Men, and eventually she becomes one of their most important allies. So who exactly is Emma Frost? How powerful is she? Why is she called the White Queen? And could Samara Weaving's version be very different from the Emma Frost we've seen before? Let's break it down. 1. Who is Emma Frost? Emma Frost is one of Marvel's most famous telepathy. She is also known as the White Queen. When she was first introduced in the comics, Emma wasn't a traditional superhero. She was associated with the Hellfire Club and operated as one of the X-Men's enemies. But Emma is much more complicated than a simple villain. She is intelligent, ambitious, extremely confident, and often willing to manipulate people to get what she wants. At the same time, she has a strong sense of loyalty toward the people she genuinely cares about. That complicated morality is one of the reasons the character became so popular. Emma can be ruthless one moment and surprisingly compassionate the next. And that's exactly what makes her different from many other X-Men characters. 2. What are Emma Frost's powers? Emma's most important ability is telepathy. She is one of the most powerful telepathies in the Marvel Universe. She can read minds, communicate mentally, influence people's thoughts, create psychic illusions, and potentially manipulate what other people perceive. That makes her extremely dangerous even without physical combat. If Emma enters a room, she doesn't necessarily need to attack anyone. She could potentially know what everyone is thinking before they even speak. She can also communicate with other people without saying a word. And in the comics, her telepathic abilities have allowed her to interact with some of the most powerful minds in the Marvel Universe. But telepathy isn't her only major ability. Emma has another power that makes her especially recognizable. 3. What is Emma's diamond form? Emma Frost can transform her entire body into an extremely durable, organic diamond form. This is one of the character's most famous abilities. When Emma transforms, her body becomes incredibly resistant to physical attacks. She becomes stronger and much harder to injure. This gives her something that many telepathies don't have, a powerful physical defense. Normally, a character with telepathic abilities might be vulnerable if an enemy gets close enough. Emma can potentially solve that problem by transforming into diamond. 4. Is Emma Frost a villain? Originally, yes, but that answer becomes complicated. Emma has committed terrible acts in the comics. She has manipulated people, she has worked with dangerous organizations, and she has often put her own interests ahead of others. But over time, she changes. Emma eventually becomes an important member of the X-Men and develops genuine relationships with other mutants. She becomes someone who is willing to protect mutants even when the situation becomes dangerous. That evolution is one of the most interesting parts of her character. She's not a perfect hero. She doesn't suddenly become innocent. Instead, she becomes someone who chooses where her loyalty belongs, and that makes her morally complicated. 5. What is Emma's relationship with Cyclops? This could be one of the biggest storylines Marvel has available. In the comics, Emma Frost eventually develops a romantic relationship with Scott Summers, also known as Cyclops. And now Marvel has cast Samara Weaving as Emma Frost and Kit Connor as Cyclops. That immediately makes fans curious about whether Marvel will eventually explore their relationship. However, there is an important reason not to assume that it will happen immediately. The new MCU X-Men movie is introducing these characters from the beginning. Marvel has plenty of time to develop their relationships. Emma may initially be presented as an independent character. She could have her own motivations. She could even be positioned as someone whose loyalties are unclear. If Marvel eventually adapts the comic relationship between Emma and Scott, it could become a major storyline. But there is no confirmation yet that the movie will do this. 6. How does Emma feel about Jean Grey? This is another complicated relationship. Emma and Jean have a long history of rivalry and conflict. Both are extremely powerful telepaths. Both have strong connections to Scott Summers. And both have very different personalities. Jean is often portrayed as compassionate and emotionally driven. Emma is more calculating and pragmatic. That creates natural tension between them. Now, Marvel has cast Sadie Sink as Jean Grey and Samara Weaving as Emma Frost. If both characters remain central to the MCU's X-Men storyline, Marvel could eventually explore that rivalry. And because both are telepaths, their conflict could be much more interesting than a normal physical fight. Their battle could happen inside the mind. 7. Could Emma be more than a supporting character? Absolutely. Emma has enough history and power to become one of the major characters in the entire X-Men franchise. She isn't simply a secondary mutant. She's a powerful telepath, a former villain, a leader, a strategist, and eventually an important member of the X-Men. That gives Marvel several directions to take her. She could initially be an antagonist. She could be connected to the Hellfire Club. She could operate independently. Or she could eventually become one of Professor X's most important allies. The character has enough complexity to support multiple movies. Samara Weaving isn't the first actress to portray Emma Frost in live action. The character was previously played by January Jones in X-Men First Class. That version of Emma was closely connected to Sebastian Shaw and the Hellfire Club. The new Emma doesn't have to repeat the exact story from First Class. She can have a different origin, different relationships, different motivations, and potentially a much larger role in the X-Men franchise. That's important because Marvel is building its own mutant continuity rather than simply recreating the Fox movies. Could Emma work with Mr. Sinister? This is another fascinating possibility. Adam Driver is playing Mr. Sinister, and Sinister is deeply interested in mutant genetics. Emma, meanwhile, is one of the most powerful telepaths among mutants. The two characters have crossed paths in Marvel Comics, although their exact relationship depends on the storyline. Marvel hasn't confirmed that they will work together in the movie, but putting both characters into the same new X-Men universe creates plenty of possibilities. Sinister could see Emma as a valuable mutant. Emma could see through his plans. Or the two could have completely different ideas about how mutant kind should evolve. And if Sinister becomes one of the main threats to the X-Men, Emma's telepathy could make her an important weapon against him. Final thoughts. Samara Weaving is officially playing Emma Frost, also known as the White Queen. Marvel confirmed Weaving as part of the new X-Men cast at D23, alongside Kit Connor as Cyclops, Sadie Sink as Jean Grey, Christopher Abbott as Professor X, Maya Boyd as Storm, Inda Navarrete as Rogue, and Adam Driver as Mr. Sinister. The film is currently scheduled for May 5, 2028, and Emma Frost could be one of the most interesting characters in the entire new X-Men universe. She can transform into Organic Diamond and connected to the Hellfire Club. She has been a villain, she has been an ally, and she eventually becomes one of the most important members of the X-Men. Her connection to Cyclops is especially interesting because Marvel has cast Kit Connor as Scott Summers. Her rivalry with Jean Grey could also become important because Sadie Sink is playing Jean. And her presence alongside Mr. Sinister raises even more questions about where Marvel's mutant storyline is heading. She's complicated. She's ambitious, she's intelligent, she's willing to make difficult decisions, and she doesn't apologize for being powerful. That's exactly what could make Samara Weaving's Emma Frost stand out. Marvel has already introduced several powerful characters in this new X-Men lineup. But Emma is different. Cyclops is a leader. Storm is a powerhouse. Jean is an extraordinary telepath. Professor X is the mentor. And Mr. Sinister is the geneticist who wants to control mutant evolution. Emma sits somewhere in between all of them. She can be an ally, she can be an enemy, she can be a leader, and she can be someone whose true intentions remain unclear. So the biggest question isn't simply how powerful will Emma Frost be, it's whose side will she actually be on. Because if Marvel gets this character right, Samara Weaving's Emma Frost could become one of the most unpredictable and important members of the MCU's new X-Men. And that makes her casting much more interesting than simply putting another famous mutant on the team. The White Queen has arrived.